Hello, Steve Persh here from Pantheon. How do you connect the dots between the people using a website, the people responsible for a website's content, and the people with the web development expertise to shape a website's structure? How do the different needs and priorities of these groups get balanced? Where does miscommunication happen? And what changes in that chain from website users to website content editors to web developers when the subject matter of the website is not run of the mill marketing content or blog posts of dubious importance, but is instead incredibly serious and detailed healthcare guidance? That is the topic that I want to explore today. And joining me here in this video to discuss that topic, I've got Brad Monks, CEO of Symetris, Seb Lamy as well from Symetris, and Martin, a nurse advisor from CESS, here to talk about a platform that provides healthcare guidance for healthcare staff and others. But in fact, I should probably let Martin, how about you jump in, introduce yourself, and tell us about the website that we are about to take a look at.
Hi, everyone. My name is Martine Longtin. I am a nurse advisor. I'm also the coordinator of all the other nurses that work with me to write the online care procedures for the healthcare ministry and other healthcare establishments in the province of Quebec in Canada.
That seems like immensely important website content. I've worked on a fair number of websites myself. One of them was a hospital website as well, and I found that I felt different when I was working on a website with that type of purpose compared to a websites I won't name with with less important purposes. Brad and Seb, could you take a moment and introduce yourselves and speak, if you could, to how does Symetris approach healthcare projects compared to how you approach any other sort of web project?
So yes, I'm Brad, CEO at Symetris. So we help our clients achieve their digital ambitions. I founded Symetris 20 years ago, and we have all kinds of. We usually work on very complex websites with enterprise type clients, and the CESS, which is part of the Quebec government, is mandating us for this website. And all our kind of processes have to kind of fit with what the CSS needs. And so we kind of really take seriously the whole flow of how this content is produced and who the users are going to, how the user are going to interact with this content. And there's a lot of kind of procedures and requirements. And we're really, that's kind of our bread and butter. We like to do these kind of more complex projects as opposed to maybe more of a mom and pop shop or just kind of landing pages or whatever. So this is really kind of the type of stuff that we usually work on. And we really specialize in Drupal as a technology. And we feel that Drupal is really appropriate for these types of complex, a lot of workflows, a lot of permission type websites.
And Seb, how about you? I understand you bring a fair bit of Drupal expertise to these types of projects.
I'm Sebastian. I'm a technical director at Symetris, and I'm also the lead developer on this project. So I've been participating into architecturing the ecosystem, the new one, because it's complex, as Brad mentioned. There are a lot of business rules, and there is also like connectivity with a CRM. And so it needs to really happen smoothly. So we've been kind of architecturing all this. And so I represent the team of developer. We've been, I don't know, maybe about 5 to 6 people working on this one. So we have a front-end specialist as well as back-end to take care of this takeover.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see it here. Martin, I'm bringing up your screen share. Could you tell us what we're looking at here?
Well, this is the front page when people are on the website. What you see here is exactly what a person would see on the Anglophone side, because we also have the Francophone side. So you have all the teams that are different aspects of nursing care, and you can access every section through one of those tiles that are there. For example, if I click on this one, it would open the list of online care procedures that we have. You can use different search criteria to get another type of list, and you can select what you want depending on what you're looking for. And inside, for example, if I just go back to the page I was at and I show you one of the online care procedures, inside the page there, you have the person who would be a user would see the general framework with different types of information. So the indications, the contraindications, and all the information that they need to know prior to doing the care per se. And then they have the technical part. So the material they need, and then the procedure with the pre-executory, oh my God, that's hard to say in English, steps. And then the list of steps are all there. And they have what to write in the progress note, the teaching program for the user, the client or the patient, I should say. And because this applies not only to nurses, but nurses' students and nurses that are still studying, for example, doing their master's degrees or their bachelor, because here we have technicians and then we have bachelor nurses. They have all the lists of references that we used. And we also have a memory aid, so they can print a smaller list of what they have to do. So it's shorter and it's easier to look at when you need to use it.
It seems really helpful to have that summary version. And from what I understand, you're now in this content focused role, but in your earlier in your career, you were in roles that were relying on this information as a nurse. What I'll guess that you use more than one system for getting this type of information. What did you see when you were in that job that was relying on these systems that separated a good version of a system like this from a bad version of a system like this?
Well, depending on where I worked, we had access to absolutely nothing. So we would have to search ourselves or rely on the people with more seniority and more knowledge of the place. Or some of the places had these. So we would use them all the time, especially when we wanted to know about something that we had to do. For example, as a community nurse, sometimes you ended up doing some sorts of procedures that you had never done. So you, yes, talk to someone who has done it, but you still want to read and know the best procedure, because all of this is written based on the best data available, also the best knowledge available. But this started as paper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I remember when we started the original project, and they said, "Well, here are all the binders that we currently provide to hospitals to get them these procedures," and we basically had to. This project was to convert those binders into something digital. So this was kind of like the original kind of digitization of information type initiatives that in the mid 2000s. This was part of that, where printing all these binders out and having to replace individual pages because one procedure changed or whatever was such a hassle, and having this is available online. And so that was part of the reason why this project was initiated back in the day.
Yes, and that's what we try to tell people, either in schools that are teaching nurses and those that are in the hospital or other establishments of healthcare, that the advantage of our online care procedures is that we change the information regularly when new data comes out or when new guidelines comes out. So compared to a book that is updated every 5 years, and because we're in a francophone province, often the francophone version is the translation of an English version that is like 10 years old. So sometimes there are differences. So we read everything internationally, so we get the best available information for the nurses that are currently on the floors or studying to become nurses. But I must say that we also have a section of the procedures that is directed to orderlies or other people that are sometimes, because the way they decided to do some of the care or provide some of the care is provided by the orderlies or other care. They're not called professionals, so that's why it says non-professionals, but they can learn care and they have all the information. And right now, because they relied a lot on them during COVID and everything, for example, if I go to this one, they have to evaluate if the person can do the care at least 3 times. And our grid currently is very, very, very long and enables to see if a person can do it only once. So every time they would try to evaluate someone, they had to do print a bunch of papers. So we had to do a smaller grid like this, which with the new platform now, we won't have to do anymore because we're trying to assess to correct that situation.
And are there other areas of the pre-existing platform that you're looking to improve with the newer version on the new version of Drupal?
Yes, the search criteria, because right now in Drupal 7, a lot of the users are complaining about the fact that they have a hard time to find some of the information, because if they put too many words sometimes in the bar there, they won't get what they're looking for. So that's one of the complaints. The other thing is also they wanted to be able to use it, to be user-friendly on a cell phone or a tablet. And also because nurses are very busy and they have less and less time because there's not enough staff everywhere, they want to have access to the procedure first. So now we're moving some of the tabs and we're changing also the way the user is going to be able to navigate inside the platform. Because our purpose is to have the nurse go find what she needs as quickly as possible so she can go back to her patients as quickly as possible.
So we've seen a lot here of the perspective of the nurses, orderlies, and other non-professionals who are using this system. What does it look like for yourself and others who are maintaining and updating the content?
Okay, so right now, when I want to write a new procedure, for example, if I choose this one, I can clone the procedure and then I could change the entire content if I want to. And then when I publish it again, when it's done, it will archive or go over the one that's currently online and replace it. But this is done in collaboration, so it takes a long time to write. But inside there, I go on edit and I can change every part from the title, the date, and these are revision notes because when, like I said, we can, when we decide to do a write-over, that's one thing, but most of the time it still changes. For example, this one was published in October last year, but in April, we changed a couple of things because of new things that came up. And we have to generate the grid manually. It's generated, but we have to take out all of the references, all of the illustrations that we put in, and remove some of the sections that we don't put in anymore. For example, we start only with the steps for the procedure. Previously, we used to have all the general framework also in there. So now we have to take it out manually, which we won't have to anymore. And this is where if we decide to prepare some tools, we just add them in there and put the right name there. And we can also add e-learning capsules, which we don't necessarily do anymore, but we could. And we fill out all of those things until we're ready to publish.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to jump in, Steve. But I think one thing that's interesting, that we've done here is that, well, when we went to that back-end interface, when Martin was editing content, we saw those little tabs appear and everything. So we did a lot of customization, yes, for the front-end users of the website. But we also customized this back-end a lot to make it more similar to how, they're wanting to interact with the website. And that first feature that Martin clicked on, the cloning, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't think it was part of the original website. And I seem to remember that we actually added that cloning feature because it was such a hassle to have to create every page every time. And so, I think that's one of the other nice things. Martin was talking about how websites allow the content itself to evolve. But we've always seen a website as something that's always constantly in evolution, right? And so we've made so many changes over the last, 7 years that this has been online. And even though we're making a huge change now that we're going to be launching the new version in a matter of weeks or months, is that same platform already has a backlog of things we're going to want to continue to improve on in the future.
Yeah, that clone module, I think, with Pantheon, with the number of websites we run, maybe we could do some sort of data-driven study on this. But I suspect that node clone is the kind of module that gets added after launch. It gets added after people start using the new website and they realize, we're spending too much time making content from scratch that is just a little bit different from existing content. Can we add like a copy or a clone button? Like, oh yes, there is a module for that. And that is just a thing that comes up after the launch. All right, so I'm excited to see what more is progressing here. I find it fascinating that in what feels like a relatively short time, like just in the span of your career, Martin, you you were saying there were times when there was no written guidance. Sometimes the only option was like, just ask a coworker, how do I do this? And then, okay, a little bit better than that, there's paper guidance, but it's a binder. It might be 5 years old. There might be pages that have been taken out and updated, and good luck figuring out if you should rely on the version written in English or the version written in French. So progress to get it digitized, but progress keeps going. So let's flip over the screen share here and take a look at what I understand to be a not yet fully live version. Seb, what are we looking at here?
So we are looking at the new platform. So it's on D10, and this is the homepage when people get logged in, they arrived here. So a little bit what Martin showed us before, but in the new platform. So there has been some UX changes. We've done some workshops to actually, understand how we could make it happen. Also to make it, like you mentioned, how it progressed. And so it has been digitalized, but now, it's also responsive. It wasn't the case on the previous website. So now it's something that, also adapts to maybe some tablets or whatever you can have, even though I know that not all the organizations may actually have this. It's, it's something that could be actually used for them later. So we kind of migrated all the data from D7 to D10. So there has been some work in there. And here you can see, for instance, the assessment grid, as Martin showed that as well. And you can, decide to select like a few items that you want to have. Pretty much the same functionality as the print that we can see on top in here. As it happens, it seems there is no question for this one. But here's a bug. Should not do that. And I can show you actually the questions in there. So in here, that is something that Martin didn't show. It's actually something already in there, but there's been some updates on that. And in here, we can actually see. Let's take, like this one here. So it's a question related to a method. So we can actually check the method in here, and here we can see actually the questions associated to the method. So when I go there, I can see all the questions that people could actually ask about this method if they have like concerns or they want some help in some elements.
Which is a feature that wasn't there before.
Yeah, before that, the questions related to a method wasn't there. So they were like questions, but not necessarily they were more like overall stick. So now we kind of tied everything together.
And what did the back and forth look like, Martin, to get that feature into the new version? Like I imagine it was a little more complicated than just saying, "Hey, we need this thing in the new version."
Well, at first, we didn't even think about linking every question that was interesting to maybe other users to the method directly. It was Symetris that suggested it. So the fact that now we can even choose which question and edit if there are things that we don't want put into the FAQ, for example, we are going to be able to do it. And the people that have certain questions that the answers are sometimes there, but they don't see it, now we'll have access to those questions. And because often we get questions about, yeah, but where I work, we use this and we do this. So we can answer them, yes, but that's not the best practice. The best practice is this. So, but in a better way.
Yeah. Are there any other ways that the nuances or the interpersonal politics, the tensions within healthcare have to get worked out or somehow navigated within this system, or tension between nurses and doctors, tension between different offices or different hospitals doing the same thing but in different ways?
Yeah. That's why to help different establishments where they do have doctors that say, well, I want it done this way, or they don't have the equipment to do what the best practices say, they can personalize a method. So before, they could only personalize a big section, like there would be a little box that was green at the top of the procedure, and they would write whatever they wanted to be done for a certain section. Now, with the help of Symetris, they will be able to personalize more sections, go more precisely where they want to go and personalize the section, the procedure, for example, or the general framework also.
Yeah, that seems immensely valuable. Brad, I'm curious from your perspective. Are there other aspects of a project of this scale that Symetris approaches differently for the context of healthcare relative to other enterprise or large scale projects you're working on?
I wouldn't say that we necessarily approach it differently per se. I think there definitely is an approach for maybe a larger scale project versus a smaller scale project that you're going to want to be have a bit more meetings on certain things. You're in the agile approach because we're very agile. And I mean, everybody says they do agile, but everybody kind of does it with their own kind of special sauce. And so the way we still want to be able to kind of build an overall kind of direction of what the specifications of this project should be, or kind of the and as we have conversations, we try to detail that so we can have kind of, this is what we're trying to deliver, as opposed to really a more, very kind of gung-ho kind of product. Hey, in the next 2 weeks, let's figure out what we'll do in the next scrum sprint. But at the same time, we have to have those. So we bring in, usually in these kind of larger scale projects, we really start with kind of an analysis with an analyst that kind of sits down with the client, understands all these different procedures, writes them all down, have the client kind of comment on these, things that we've identified. What usually happens in that phase is that we kind of ask the client, what are all the different things you want this to do, or what is it supposed to do? And we almost inevitably, find out there's so many quirks or exceptions or things that we need to identify, and we can't fit all that into like the overall kind of budget. And so there's always kind of a back and forth of, okay, well, this, we could do it as an add-on later on, or like in a next step. Well, this is really crucial, but if we do this, what do we have to kind of compromise on? So I think there's a lot of that back and forth with the client. And when those relationships work well, and I mean, hopefully for Martine, she feels that it's working well, right? But no, thank you very much. I think she talked about it a bit earlier when she said, "Oh well, Symetris kind of recommended that we maybe kind of connect the questions to the methods or the procedures." I mean, and I think that when we kind of are able to put ourselves in the client's shoes, or kind of think about what their end client would want and stuff like that, that really builds trust with the client, as opposed to us just saying, okay, well, tell me what you want. That's included, that's not. And we really see it more kind of as a partnership and an ongoing conversation. And I think it could be easy to imagine this type of project as being a humongous kind of upfront list of specs and then just deliver on that. But I think it's really important to have some kind of a middle ground where we do have kind of a pretty clear direction of what we want these specs to do, but that direction gets clearer as we move forward, and everything has to connect together, because we can't just work on one thing and forget the rest.
Sure, and you said the word agile, so I feel like I've got to ask more about that. It's been a buzzword in the web development agency world for so long. Martin, I saw what I think I could categorize as a knowing smile from you. For you in your seat, does the word agile matter for you in your work? Because I've seen some teams for whom agile methodologies do encompass both the web development team and the client, and everybody loves it. And then for others, the client doesn't care at all. They say, organize your calendars however you want. Just make the website do what it needs to do. For you in your collaboration with Symetris, how do those details come into your world?
Well, it's because we have 36, they call it CESS or CESS in here. And those are like sort of the regions for the different healthcare establishments. And we have meetings with all those people, and all those people tell us what they want, what they don't want. And so we have to be able to discuss it with the Symetris team and be able to find solutions together. And the fact that we would meet regularly with Symetris and they were open and listening to us, it was never, no, you said this before and now you're saying this. So it was nice collaboration, and it meant that Maybe it's longer. I don't know, because I wasn't involved when we moved to Drupal 7. I just know that, for example, I saw this morning that I have a list of information that will be provided to us to be able to train our users to use a new platform, which is something that wasn't done the first time around. We had to turn around and prepare rapidly. So that is something that is really interesting and helps us to have more time to work on our procedures so that they're updated. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And we're starting to run low on time here, but I've got one more question for Brad or Seb, whichever you wants to take this. Uh, the collaborations among web teams can vary greatly, project to project or engagement to engagement. But it sounds like there's a very fruitful working relationship here. What from Martin is working well? Like to put a finer point on it, what does Martin do well that you wish other clients or customers did more of? Like, what if you probably can't tell your other customers or clients, be more like Martin, do these things that she does. But I'll give you that opportunity to say that indirectly. What should others do that Martin does?
So I'll let Sébastien answer specifically in regards to the day-to-day with Martin, because I'm more kind of the account manager on this account. So I interact a bit more with the kind of general manager of the CESS. But I think that's also one of the elements that I do still want to speak about that. But that connection that we have with the kind of more of executive level is really important from my perspective, because what we've seen potentially happen in the past or in our younger years is that sometimes kind of the people who are actually working on the project, or let's say, some companies call them the makers or whatever, right? They have one specific perspective on the project, but the managers have a different perspective on it. And one of what's really important for us is to have regular meetings on kind of the executive side to say, well, from your perspective, do you feel things are going well? Do you feel that you're being updated on progress? And are we all aligned? And so that, from my experience, if we have engagement on the executive level and people who are interested in how the project is going, already we can align expectations. And at the end of the day, a project that goes well, from my experience, is usually based on minimizing surprises. The more surprises there are, the less well the project is going to go and less trust is going to be built between the two teams. And it's really important to get it up to the executive level of whoever's signing that check and whoever has those kind of business objectives. In the day-to-day relationship with Martine, now Sébastien has been involved with her, so I'll pass the ball over.
Yeah, so I think on the day-to-day, or maybe it's more on the week-to-week, I would say, we actually, more like Brad mentioned about the being agile, is to set up demos regularly, so we can actually really have this time together. So Martin and his team, they can actually see what we've been doing, and we actually try to involve every developer in this meeting. So everyone that has been working on it is actually showing what they've done, and so we kind of have this kind of feedbacks. So, but this, we thought it would be like that, so we actually, change it. So that's the way we're actually doing agile. I'd say with the Martin and.
What I'd bring into what you're saying, Sebastian, is and saying, like, what does Martin do well in that context? And I think those demos are a really good example. Is Martin has a really good understanding of what this project is supposed to achieve and all the different ramifications of it. And she also has the trust and the leeway from her bosses, right? While those demos are being held, she can give feedback. That feedback has weight, right? And it's stuff that we can apply in real time and say, okay, well, Martin gave us this feedback and we react in real time to that. In the past, some challenges we've had sometimes is clients attend the demo, they don't really say anything. And then a couple of weeks later, they say, oh, well, this feature, that's not how I want it, right? But maybe the people didn't have the authority in the demo to do it. They felt they needed to kind of bring it higher up or whatever. And so that really bogged the project down or creates kind of those incongruities in communication. And Martin has that kind of trust and leeway and authority to be involved and is involved.
Yes, and also Symetris was always open for me to have more people attend the meetings so that I wasn't the only voice and the only eyes looking at what they were showing. So that way the other users, and even like I told you, we had 36 people from the different establishments that we had shown these things to and got feedback from. So that was very nice.
Yeah, I mean, Martin, you probably have a huge challenge managing feedback from 36 different agencies or kind of, I think this should be this way, this should be that way. I can't imagine how you manage that.
Not always easy, but strangely enough, it was quite good, the comments that we got. But I guess we'll know more once it's implemented.
Yeah. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing an update when this Drupal 10 version moves from this testing phase into full production usage. Brad, Seb, Martin, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the internet.